Welcome back to Meaningful Whispers. Tonight you slip into the breathless quiet of the Arctic night. The air tastes sharp, as though it's been crystallized and ground into something finer than snow itself. A single oil lamp flickers in a small wooden hut, its faint glow bending against the polished bones and seal skins that line the walls. Outside, the world is so still it feels suspended in time, a frozen expanse, vast and indifferent, stretching into eternity. Even the sea beneath the ice seems to have forgotten how to move, but you hear it, soft as a memory, a distant, almost imperceptible hum, like the ocean breathing in its sleep. Inuit elders call this sila, the living breath of the world, a force neither fully seen nor touched. And within this frozen stillness lies a story, one whispered by generations with voices low enough to not awaken what dreams below. It is said there is a giant under the sea, a creature as old as the ice itself, gentle yet unknowable, who shapes the tides without ever surfacing. And yes, your ego might not make it through unscathed. After all, what are you, a single soul beneath the vast stare of the Arctic sky? So before we dive in, tap that like button and subscribe to Syphoria, only if these midnight mind voyages truly speak to you. And while you're here, leave a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is in your corner of the world. Let's see how far across the map of consciousness we stretch tonight. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You begin by imagining the endless white, but your gaze drifts downward, past the snow-crusted rocks and into the silent darkness under the ice. Down there, the world moves differently. Water presses inward from every side, heavy and dark, swallowing sound. No sunlight reaches here. Only faint glimmers of pale blue wander through the cracks above. This is where the legend begins. The Inuit call him Tikarak, though the name changes from village to village. He is not a monster, nor quite a god. More like a presence, one said to be as large as a floating island. Children were told he was born when the sea itself grew lonely. He would wander under the ice, tracing the roots of glaciers, humming a sound that could calm storms. Unlike the fierce spirits who punished hunters for greed, this one never harmed anyone. Instead, the elders said, he waited. Here's the first ripple of reality. The Arctic, despite its unforgiving nature, is filled with kindness. Even in the coldest traditions, there are stories of giving, like the giant, who some said nudged schools of fish toward starving families when hunting failed. Others believed he guided lost kayaks back to shore by stirring the currents ever so slightly. Historians still argue whether this myth arose as metaphor for the sea's unpredictability or as a comforting thought in times of hardship. Truth is what survives the telling, Nietzsche once said, and in this case, the telling stretches across centuries of darkness and snow. Pause now. Notice your breathing, slow, like the weightless drift of snowflakes. Feel your shoulders drop as you exhale. The cold outside fades, leaving only a soft awareness of stillness. There is an odd anecdote that Inuit elders like to share, one that blurs the edge of memory. They speak of a hunter named Amaruk who claimed to have seen Tikarak's shadow once during a rare thin moon night. The sea ice cracked beneath him, and as he stared into the water, something immense passed below. Not a whale, not any creature known. Just a shape so big it made the water itself seem too small. But instead of fear, he felt calm, a strange, unexpected warmth, as if the being below recognized him. Amaruk returned to his village silent. He never spoke of what he truly saw, only said that the sea dreams, and sometimes it remembers us. Was it a real sighting? Or a moment of exhaustion turning into hallucination? Even now, psychologists debate the fine line between survival-driven visions and genuine spiritual encounters. The ambiguity is what keeps the story alive. And perhaps in the same way your mind shapes shadows in a dark room into faces, the Inuit shaped the sea's endless depth into a gentle guardian. It's easier to live with mystery when it feels like someone or something is watching over you. Breathe in, hold, and release. The air may feel cooler now, like stepping deeper into the frozen landscape. Even modern oceanographers with their machines and drones haven't mapped every hollow beneath the Arctic ice. There are spaces untouched by light for millennia. Spaces where legends might wait patiently, unbothered by time. So you sit with that thought, the ice above you, the giant below, and you, just a small flicker in between. You drift further into the silence, the kind that hums at the edges of your perception. Under the ice, the water thickens with mystery, and your thoughts start to feel as slow as the ancient currents. The Inuits say that Tikarak, the gentle giant, is not bound by one shape. Sometimes he is like a seal, coiling and graceful. Other times he is a vast, shadowy mass without edges, an echo of the ocean itself. They say he can shrink small enough to fit into a seashell, or expand so wide that even the horizon trembles with his movement. Here lies the odd beauty of legends. They are allowed to change shape just as he does. There's an old lullaby that mothers would hum as they rock their children to sleep. Beneath the ice, a giant dreams. He hums the tide. He hums your name. No one remembers when it was first sung, only that it has been passed from lips to ears, like a secret folded into generations. Perhaps it was never about a giant at all. Perhaps it was a way of telling children that even in the endless dark, something cared. Psychologists who study cultural memory often say myths like these serve as a shared heartbeat for communities facing harsh realities. Life in the Arctic was, and still is, unforgiving. The ice doesn't care for your hunger or your fear. But the story of a gentle being beneath the frozen sea, one who quietly guides the living, gave comfort. Sometime, Jung wrote, the soul needs myth more than it needs truth. And so you imagine him, this shapeless titan beneath the waves. There is a peculiar story told about a village long forgotten by maps. In the depths of winter, the entire settlement was buried by a sudden blizzard, the kind that turns daylight into a blur of white. The hunters were stranded. Their food stores ran low. But then, without explanation, the sea ice broke close to shore, revealing a path to open water where fish gathered in abundance. The elders said it was Tikarak, lifting his body to crack the ice for them, feeding the village with his silent grace. Was it chance or kindness? Historians still debate if this was a rare weather event or the echo of a myth made real. Pause now. Let your breath deepen. Notice the quiet space between your inhales, that moment where even your body forgets to rush. Feel how still it is. There's a strange irony in all of this. Humans fear the deep, the unknown, yet also long for it, like the hunter Amaruk who felt warmth, not terror, when the shadow passed. Like sailors who whisper prayers to the sea even as they fear drowning in it. Maybe that's why Tikarak remains a legend rather than a nightmare. He embodies the softness hidden inside the cold, the way kindness sometimes lives in the least expected places. And if you think about it, the ocean itself is like a mind, vast, mostly unexplored, filled with things you don't fully understand. The Inuit believed Tikarak represented this unseen part of existence, the part that doesn't explain itself, only hums softly in the background. Do you hear it? An elder once asked a young boy, pointing to the frozen sea. The boy shook his head. Listen deeper, the elder said. The giant sings even if you cannot name the song. Breathe. Let the rhythm of your breath mimic the slow, tidal pull. In out, like waves rising and falling under the ice. Modern science has its own mysteries about the Arctic. Beneath the ice sheets, there are entire hidden lakes, sealed away for thousands of years. There are creatures adapted to darkness, unseen by human eyes. Oceanographers admit they know more about the surface of the moon than the deep Arctic seabed. Could a being like Tikarak still wait there, beyond the reach of our technology? Or is he only the shape we give to our collective hope? Humans always create symbols for the things they cannot fully grasp. A giant beneath the frozen sea is just one more way to make peace with the unknown. And maybe that's what comforts you now. The idea that even in the harshest places, there's a story of something gentle. Your breathing slows again, your shoulders soften, the room around you fades, leaving only the sound of your own pulse, steady and quiet. The sea below the ice grows darker, and yet it doesn't feel empty. You imagine Tikarak moving beneath you now. You don't see him. You only sense him, like a thought just beyond words. He doesn't try to speak, doesn't demand anything. He simply exists, patient, watching. And for a moment you realize how small your worries are compared to the frozen ocean. And yet, how held you feel in this vast, cold stillness. You drift even deeper, letting the frozen sea stretch wider in your mind. The horizon dissolves into a pale blur where sky and ice meet without edges. In that boundless silence, the Inuit say, Tikarak moves so slowly that time itself forgets to count. They believe the giant was not just a creature, but a keeper of balance. When hunters took more than they needed, the ice would shift in strange ways, cracking without warning, swallowing sleds and dogs in a single breath. But when they hunted with respect, leaving offerings at the edge of the water, tiny carved figures of seals or bits of blubber wrapped in snow, the sea would stay calm, the fish plentiful. There's a story of a man named Kailu, a proud hunter who ignored the old ways. He boasted that no giant ruled the sea, that men ruled themselves. So he hunted recklessly, taking seals even when his family had enough. One morning, the village found his sled abandoned by a hole in the ice, the dogs whining but unhurt. Kailu was gone. Some say he fell in. Others say the ice opened deliberately, that Tikarak swallowed him whole, not in anger, but to remind the people that the sea is not owned, only borrowed. Is that justice or fear disguised as wisdom? Historians still argue if these tales were simply a way to teach sustainability in a harsh land, or if there was a deeper spiritual truth the modern world can't measure. As you breathe, notice how your chest rises and falls, soft and effortless, like the roll of a wave. Let your breath stretch a little longer, a little slower, matching the timeless rhythm of the sea. Nietzsche once wrote, "Invisible threads are the strongest ties." Perhaps that's what the Inuit felt, an invisible thread connecting themselves to the sea, the ice, the giant beneath it all. It wasn't about seeing him. It was about sensing the connection, knowing it was there even without proof. There's another peculiar tale the elders tell. Sometimes in the quietest winters, the ice would sing. Not the normal groaning of shifting sheets, but a low, almost human hum that carried through the village at night. It was said to be Tikarak's voice, echoing softly through the frozen layers, a song no one could remember after it faded. Modern science explains these sounds as the ice expanding and contracting with temperature. But even scientists admit the tones are strangely melodic, like music made by something alive. A subtle smile might tug at your lips. How often does the rational explanation feel less magical than the myth? You can almost hear it now, a low resonance, like the hum of a distant choir. Maybe it's your own breath. Maybe it's the sound of your thoughts slowing. There's a lighter tale, too, a rare touch of humor among these legends. They say Tikarak once tried to surface, curious about the humans above. But when he emerged, his head, larger than 10 kayaks, frightened the villagers so badly that they dropped their tools and fled. Tigerac felt so embarrassed by their fear that he immediately slipped back under the ice, vowing never to show himself again. The elders would chuckle, saying, "Even giants don't like rejection." Pause for a moment. Feel how the weight of the day begins to dissolve, just like those villagers vanishing into the white. Perhaps what comforts you most is the quiet duality of this myth. Tigerac is powerful enough to crack ice, yet gentle enough to care for those who respect the sea. He's feared but also loved. He never stays still in one shape, but he never disappears completely. Isn't that like the mysteries in your own life? The feelings that scare you but also keep you going? The things you can't fully understand, yet can't let go of either. You breathe again, deeper this time, and imagine the frozen sea holding you steady. You are the hunter, the villager, the child listening to stories by a dim oil lamp. You are also the giant beneath, vast and wordless, shaping the currents of your own dreams. Another Inuit saying comes to mind, "What we cannot see still remembers us." And maybe even now Tigerac remembers you. The sea hums, the ice sighs, and you float there, safe in the endless white, unafraid of what you can't see. You drift further still, the white silence now so complete it feels alive. It doesn't crush you, it carries you, like a cradle carved from ice. Somewhere beneath that frozen cradle, Tigerac waits, not sleeping, but watching in a way that has nothing to do with eyes. The Inuit say the gentle giant knows the stories of all who live above the ice. He remembers each footprint left in the snow, each breath that steamed in the cold. His memory stretches farther than any human lifetime, a vast archive stored in silence. There's a legend of a woman named Anna who walked to the sea every day with a bowl of water. She would pour it slowly into a crack in the ice, whispering prayers no one else could hear. The villagers thought her mad, but one winter, when the winds tore down their shelters and the fish vanished, Anna's family alone had food. She claimed Tigerac guided the fish back to her traps. Was she blessed, or did her calm persistence simply make her a better hunter? Anthropologists still debate whether such myths are coded survival strategies or evidence of a deeper spiritual bond. But the story endures, whispered like the faint whistle of wind over snow. As you inhale, feel the breath grow soft, lighter than a snowflake falling. Exhale slowly, as though your breath itself could form a cloud that drifts over the frozen sea. Jung once said, "In all chaos, there is a cosmos." Perhaps the Inuit felt that too. Beneath the shifting, perilous chaos of the ice lay a greater order, embodied by the giant they could not fully see. There's an unusual anecdote that still lingers in Arctic folklore. One spring, when the ice began to break earlier than expected, villagers found an enormous, smooth stone washed ashore. It was too round, too polished to be natural. Elders claimed it was a scale from Tigerac's back, shed like the skin of a snake. Children played on it for weeks, sliding across its slick surface, until one day it vanished. Some said the tide reclaimed it. Others whispered that Tigerac took it back. Modern geologists think it might have been a glacial boulder, smoothed by centuries of ice. But deep inside, don't you prefer the version where it belongs to a hidden giant? And yet, despite these mysterious gifts, Tigerac always eluded direct contact. Hunters who claimed to have seen him described only fragments: a ripple too large to be a whale, a shadow moving under clear ice, a sudden stillness in the water. Each description changed as though the giant himself refused to hold a single shape, like the sea itself, always moving, never fixed. You feel your own mind shift like that, fluid, elusive, resisting one final form. Let your awareness melt a little now. loosening its grip on the day's rigid edges. Another soft layer of story falls over you like snow. There's a tale of two brothers who argued about Tikarak. One believed he was real, the other dismissed him as an old tale. To settle the dispute, they ventured far beyond the safe ice toward the open sea. Only one returned. When asked what happened, the survivor simply said, "The ice opened, but it did not break." A riddle or a confession? Scholars still argue about the meaning of that line, if it was a metaphor for grief or an actual event. But perhaps the truth is like Tikarak himself, shifting, impossible to pin down. You sense a faint humor in all this mystery, like a cosmic wink. Imagine a giant who spends eternity under the ice, teasing the humans above with glimpses, but never revealing the full truth. Maybe he finds it amusing, this dance of belief and doubt. Now breathe again. Notice how quiet your thoughts have become. The world feels softer, gentler, as if time itself has slowed to match the rhythm of the sea below. Some Inuit elders would say that if you sleep by the ice long enough, you might dream of Tikarak. But in those dreams, he doesn't appear as a monster. He comes as a friend, sometimes a seal, sometimes a wave, sometimes even a human shape with kind eyes. He changes, but he is always familiar. And you wonder, do you already know him? Has he been with you all along, hidden beneath your own layers of ice? You let the question drift. You don't need an answer. What you need is this stillness, this breath, this soft white emptiness that isn't empty at all. The sea hums again, or maybe it's your pulse, echoing in the quiet. Either way, it feels like a promise, something vast and kind moving just beyond sight, and you float, weightless and unafraid. You drift deeper into the story now, letting the snowbound silence unfold like a soft white scroll. The further you go, the more the boundaries blur, between sea and sky, between legend and memory, between you and the great being sleeping below. The Inuit elders say that Tikarak is not just one giant, but all giants, all seas, all forgotten echoes of the deep. To see him is to see the entire ocean's history pressed into a single breath, and yet he remains gentle. He is no raging god of storms, no vengeful leviathan. He is the stillness beneath the waves, the pause before the ice shifts. There's a story of a child named Ujarik who fell through a thin patch of ice one winter. By all reason, he should have been lost to the freezing depths. But he returned hours later, calm and dry, claiming that a big shadow with a warm voice had carried him to the surface. The villagers feared the tale. What could live below the ice that did not harm but helped? Was it mercy or something stranger? Psychologists today sometimes call such stories collective coping mechanisms, ways to soften the brutal reality of the Arctic. But even they admit there's an odd consistency in these legends, recurring in different villages miles apart. Historians still argue whether they're fragments of a single ancient myth or a shared psychological echo born of the same harsh landscape. You let the thought dissolve. It doesn't matter whether it's myth or memory. It lingers because it feels true. Reality, Nietzsche once said, is just an interpretation. And in this white expanse, you feel how fragile your interpretations really are. Your breath slows even more. Inhale as though sipping the faintest taste of air. Exhale, letting every muscle soften just a fraction more. Feel the weight of your body becoming lighter, like snow that doesn't quite touch the ground. There's another anecdote, whispered like a secret. A hunter claimed he once rode on Tikarak's back. Not for long, only the length of a song. He said the giant was covered in smooth ice that glimmered like stars. And when he dismounted, the sea was calm for a whole season, as if the ocean itself was resting after a long journey. You smile softly at the thought. Can you imagine riding the frozen back of a sea giant, the horizon stretching endlessly, no sound but your own quiet heartbeat? But here's the strangest part. Every time someone tells the story of Tikarak, he changes. Sometimes he is a whale-sized creature. Sometimes a being made entirely of water. Sometimes he is said to have human eyes, ancient and endlessly kind. Perhaps he takes the shape each listener needs, and isn't that what stories themselves do? Shift and adapt, becoming what we need most? A comfort, a warning, a mystery that keeps us awake just long enough to dream deeper? Your mind drifts like that now, between knowing and not knowing. Beneath the ice, the world is not empty. It's teeming with soundless life, from tiny fish to great drifting shadows. If you lean close enough, if you quiet yourself completely, you might hear it. Not the roar of the sea, but the hum of something vast and alive, waiting patiently in the cold. There's even a ritual some villages once practiced. When the sea froze solid, they would tap gently on the ice with a bone tool 3 times, then place their ear to the surface. They said you could hear Tikarak respond with a low, distant echo, a reminder that the sea was never silent, only sleeping. And maybe you felt that too in your own life. The quiet underneath the noise, the stillness under your thoughts, a presence that can't be named but is always there. As you breathe again, imagine that quiet as a soft blue glow under the ice. Imagine it spreading outward, endless and calm. You feel a strange comfort now. The giant under the sea isn't something to fear. He doesn't rise to destroy, doesn't crave worship. He simply is. A witness, a memory, a promise that the frozen world still holds warmth, even if you can't see it. Some say if you call his name softly while the snow falls, you'll dream of him that night. But they warn, don't ask him questions. He never answers in words. He answers in tides, in the slow melting of ice, in the way the sea cradles the shore. And that's the beauty of him, isn't it? He never traps you in certainty. He keeps the mystery alive, like the ocean always slipping from your grasp. Your eyelids grow heavier now, like they're wrapped in soft fur. The story folds around you like a blanket. Tikarak drifts in the deep, and you drift with him, not to escape, but to rest in something larger than yourself. You exhale one last time, longer, slower. The sea is quiet, the ice unmoving, and somewhere below, the giant waits, always there, always kind, always beyond the reach of final understanding. You sink further into the tale, as if your thoughts are wrapped in layers of snow, muffled and softened by the vast, endless quiet of the Arctic night. Beneath you, in your imagination, the ice is both fragile and eternal. A translucent bridge between your small human world and the unknowable depths below. And down there, still and patient, is Tikarak. The Inuit say he does not move unless he must. For centuries, he has remained beneath the frozen sea, letting the seasons pass like the blink of an ancient eye. Yet when the balance of the world is threatened, when the ice cracks too far or the sea grows restless, he shifts, and with a single movement, the currents change. There's an old legend about a winter when the seals disappeared. The hunters grew desperate, the children hungry, the elders quiet with fear. One night, the village shaman slipped away to the edge of the sea ice. He sang a song so low it was almost a whisper, a melody made of breath and silence. And from the deep, the giant stirred. The next morning, the seals returned, hundreds of them, lying peacefully on the ice as if they had always been there. No one spoke of it loudly, but they all knew who had heard the song. Was it real, or just the way people explained a sudden turn of fortune? Historians debate, psychologists nod knowingly. But the story lives on, like all stories that touch something in us we can't quite explain. As you think about it, your breath naturally deepens. Inhale cool air, letting it settle gently in your lungs. Exhale as if you're letting go of an entire season's worth of tension. Feel how even your fingertips grow still, how the world narrows to just this moment. There's another fragment of myth. Some believe Tikarak was once human, a gentle fisherman who, after saving a drowning whale, was blessed by the sea spirits and transformed into a guardian of the deep. Others say he is older than the ocean itself, a piece of the first darkness that stretched before the world had form. Who is right? No one knows. And that's the point. Some truths are too large to fit inside a single version. Not all mysteries are meant to be solved, Jung once wrote, and here, surrounded by endless ice and quiet water, you feel that. The not knowing is part of the piece. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine the frozen expanse above you. Imagine lowering yourself through the ice, drifting down where the water is black but not cold, where there's no fear, only weightless silence. Down there, you don't need to breathe. You just exist, the same way Tikarak exists, beyond time, beyond urgency. There's a gentle humor in the thought. Even the largest, most powerful being in these legends spends most of its time resting. Perhaps even giants know the wisdom of stillness. And maybe that's what the story has always been teaching. Not about monsters or gods, but about the quiet strength of waiting, of holding space, of being present without needing to change anything. The Inuit describe him with kindness, never terror. No sharp teeth, no angry roars, just the enormity of presence. It's why they never feared going near the sea, even in the darkest winters. They believed it was watched over, cared for, by something gentle and unseen. And in that belief, there was comfort. Now imagine yourself standing at the edge of that frozen world. The wind is soft, carrying the faint scent of salt. The sky above is painted with green auroras, rippling like silk in slow motion. Beneath your feet, the ice hums faintly, as if it's singing a note only you can hear. If you stay long enough, you might see it, the slow shift of something colossal beneath the surface. Not a threat, not a demand, just a reminder that even the vast unknown can be kind. You smile faintly at the thought. The gentle giant is still there, always beneath the frozen sea, always waiting. You begin to feel the same way, settled, patient, untethered from time. Your body feels heavier now, like it belongs more to the quiet than to the noise of the waking world. Take one last deep inhale, long and slow. Hold it just for a heartbeat, then let it go completely, releasing everything you no longer need. And now you drift. The giant drifts, and the sea, calm and endless, holds you both. You let the final echoes of the story dissolve into silence. The auroras fade, the ice stills. The water becomes nothing more than a soft, dark cradle for your thoughts. Tikarak remains below, unseen yet certain, and you remain here wrapped in stillness, with the comforting truth that some mysteries don't need answers, they only need to be felt. So now you're here, floating between the edges of sleep and waking, where stories take on their softest shapes. The Inuits say that dreams born under the frozen sky carry whispers from the sea, quiet messages too delicate for the noise of day. Maybe tonight you'll hear one. Let your breath stay slow and steady, like the tide pulling softly against the shore. Feel your eyelids heavier than before, your body wrapped in an invisible blanket of calm. Notice the rhythm of your heart, slow but certain, like the distant hum of the giant beneath the sea. If any restless thoughts linger, imagine them falling gently through the water, sinking to a place where even worry can't follow. The ocean holds them for you, keeping them safe, leaving your mind lighter and clearer. And in that weightless quiet, you remember, the world is so much larger than you, yet somehow it makes room for you perfectly. Just as it makes room for legends, for kindness, for things too beautiful to fully understand. Tonight, you don't need to search for meaning. You don't need to solve the mystery. You only need to rest, knowing that like the gentle giant, peace waits patiently beneath the surface of everything. So let go. Let the frozen sea hold you. Let the story fade into dreams. And know in this moment of quiet that you are safe, you are calm, and you are exactly where you need to be.